On March 2nd, 1836, Texas boldly declared its independence, a moment that sparked dreams of freedom and prosperity for its people. This declaration signified not just a break from Mexican rule, but the birth of a unique identity, nurturing the vision of Texas as a land of opportunity and resilience. Fast forward to today, and the once bright promise of this Lone Star state has dimmed under the weight of considerable challenges. From crumbling infrastructure and an increasingly vulnerable economy to a reputation that has come under scrutiny, Texas is grappling with issues that threaten its status as a landmark city for businesses and entrepreneurs. In this evolving narrative, the state finds itself at a crossroads, facing the much-needed demand for renewal and revitalization. Everyday Texans often express their deep concerns regarding the state's future. Many reflect on their upbringing, believing in Texas's unique spirit where hard work and resilience guarantee you success and a comfortable lifestyle. Sadly, with the exorbitant rising costs, failing power grids, and rampant political polarization, this belief is transforming into a distant fantasy. To illustrate, potential buyers of the average Texas home now need to earn approximately $114,627 to enter the housing market, marking a 15% increase in just 1 year and over 50% since the pandemic's onset. In stark contrast, the median household income in Texas in 2023 stood at $75,780, reinforcing the notion that home ownership is slipping away for many. A heartbreaking reality for many Texans is that home ownership, once a feasible dream, has now become elusive. Historically, Texas housing was recognized for its affordability, but over the last decade, housing prices have skyrocketed, forcing citizens to abandon their property dreams. Even for those who can still afford to buy, the benefits of ownership are no longer what they were. Take Austin as a case in point. The median house price exceeded $550,000 by August 2024, often merely securing modest homes in suburban areas. For many, it's disheartening to spend that much on limited space when other states offer spacious properties at similar prices. While many Texans focus on housing issues, the state's infrastructure challenges are just as pressing. Underinvestment, combined with soaring population growth and the impacts of extreme weather events, has left Texas's power grid and water systems in a precarious state. The 2021 winter storm serves as a stark illustration of this failure, leaving millions without power for days and tragically resulting in hundreds of deaths. As summer approaches each year, anxiety mounts over potential blackouts driven by soaring demand. The aging water systems, which sometimes issue frequent boil water notices, exacerbate the situation. This decline in infrastructure investment impacts perception significantly. Businesses and individuals increasingly realize that Texas, once synonymous with robust infrastructure and reliability, is struggling to keep the lights on. The fallout from this reality is truly underwhelming. Texas's ability to draw in businesses and talent is on a downward trajectory. One telling example includes Texas's insufficient upgrades to its power grid, despite numerous warnings regarding the need for resilience. Governor Abbott has acknowledged some effort in this area, having signed a law in April 2024 that allows for the Texas Energy Fund to invest up to $10 billion over 4 years to expand or build new dispatchable power. While this may signal hope, critics argue that it should have been done sooner. He also announced an additional peaker power plant will be built at the same Lower Colorado River Authority site. These two plants will play a critical role in the Texas grid, adding a total of 380 megawatts of power and creating over 300 good-paying jobs in the San Marcos area. The problem with Texas's decline is a combination of short-term thinking and external pressures. On the economic front, Texas has become overly reliant on the energy sector. Since 2000, the state's dependence on oil and gas has increased, making Texas vulnerable to global energy market fluctuations. To make matters worse, there are deep structural issues in the Texas economy. The state has struggled to diversify beyond its traditional strengths in energy and agriculture. That is a dangerous position, leaving Texas exposed to the global transitions away from fossil fuels. Furthermore, most Texans are concerned about the growing inequality, placing a disproportionate amount of pressure on households already struggling with rising costs. For example, while Texas has seen job growth, many of these jobs are low wage, leaving workers unable to keep up with increasing living expenses. Economic vulnerability isn't the only reason for Texas's decline, though, and it's easy for folks to point fingers. But Texas has underinvested in its future for decades. In fact, Texas ranks near the bottom in per-pupil education spending. falling behind many other states in preparing its workforce for the future. Texas trails the national average by averaging $4,000 per student, earning the state an F rating and ranking 42nd in the nation in per student spending, whereas New York spends the most per pupil on K-12 education with $29,873 per student as of 2024. Of course, you can't fix decades of neglect overnight, and in Texas, short-term political cycles often trump long-term planning. For one, politicians are focused on the next election rather than the next generation. Policy debates are constant, and investment in education, healthcare, and infrastructure often loses out to more immediate concerns. Elected officials know this, and therefore don't push hard for necessary but unpopular reforms to avoid losing elections. Furthermore, the state's aversion to taxes often leads to underfunding of critical services, making coordinated actions difficult. A part of the reason for this dysfunction is the growing political polarization. From 2000 to 2022, Texas has become increasingly divided along political lines. This polarization makes it difficult for the government to implement ambitious policies or rally the state around a common goal. And the final nail in the coffin for Texas's prosperity, the changing climate landscape. Texas's traditional strengths in agriculture and energy are under threat from climate change. But what has Texas done to adapt to these changes? Not enough. The state is caught between its economic reliance on fossil fuels and the need to transition to a more sustainable future. Climate resilience is just one component of this decline. What about Texas's economic competitiveness? The state has long prided itself on its business-friendly environment, but this advantage is eroding. Other states are catching up, offering similar or better incentives to businesses. One of the reasons for Texas's economic challenges is the failure to invest in a skilled workforce. But it's not just about high-tech industries. Texas has also struggled to address its high rate of uninsured residents, leaving many workers vulnerable to health crises that can derail their economic stability. The worst example of this is in healthcare access, which is amongst the worst in the nation. Not only this, but the state government has been slow to expand healthcare coverage, leading to concerns about public health and missed economic opportunities. This story of government inaction leading to long-term challenges is nothing new. For example, Texas has failed to adequately address water scarcity, a critical issue in a state prone to droughts. Texans face increasing water restrictions, and agriculture productivity is threatened by unreliable water supplies. The water crisis has been met with significant pushback from citizens and politicians. In fact, some members of the legislature have spoken out against comprehensive water management reforms, as the number of complaints from constituents about potential economic losses has risen. Systemic changes in water management and usage are necessary for long-term sustainability, but this isn't just limited to environmental policy. Texans experience challenges across multiple sectors because of government inaction or misguided interventions. The craziest part is that despite the state's economic strength, Texas is facing a teacher shortage crisis. In many states, such a mismatch between economic resources and educational outcomes would lead to major reform. But in Texas, ideological battles often prevent meaningful change. Healthcare is similar. There is a growing inequality in access to quality healthcare. To receive adequate care is nearly impossible for many Texans due to the state's high uninsured rate and rural hospital closures. This has led to a healthcare system that threatens Texas's future workforce and economic potential. It is estimated that over 4 million Texans lack insurance, the highest number of any state. Why? The state's refusal to expand Medicaid and a lack of employer-provided insurance in many low-wage jobs. Texas's 28 largest cities, including Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, Fort Worth, and El Paso, had a greater percentage of their population without insurance than the collective United States. Now, I could list a million more examples, but the conclusion is the same. Texas's future prosperity is at risk. To counter this is to reinvest in the foundations of Texas' success, its people, its infrastructure, and its innovative spirit. However, the state has struggled to do this. Since 2000, Texas has seen a widening income gap, while many other states have worked to address inequality. This growing divide is partially responsible for increasing disillusionment with the Texas dream and a reduction in optimism about the future. One of the drivers for this decline is its increasing political polarization. Texas politics have become increasingly divisive, but why hasn't this led to major reforms? Simply put, the political system is often more responsive to ideological positions than to pragmatic solutions for average citizens. Another reason is the decline of social cohesion. Most Texans report feeling more divided than ever before. These divisions have no real benefit for the state, leading to a paralysis in addressing common challenges. Texas has seen a major decline in civic engagement, weakening the collective voice of citizens in shaping policy. Voter turnout in Texas is consistently among the lowest in the nation, contributing to the policies that don't reflect the needs of all Texans. But one could argue that Texas has faced challenges before and always emerged stronger, which is absolutely fair. However, the state has struggled to define a clean vision for its future in a changing world, meaning it hasn't really adapted to the 21st century landscape. All efforts by leaders to articulate a new vision for Texas have fallen short, but this is not simply limited to grand strategy. Texas is seeing an erosion of its reputation like never before. Each year, more businesses and individuals are reconsidering Texas as a destination, and the state's cultural exports are facing stiffer competition from other regions. And why wouldn't this be happening? The world is becoming more focused on sustainability. The cost of living in Texas's major cities is rising, and other states are investing heavily in their own development. The loser in this scenario is not just Texas, but the American economy it has long bolstered. As Texas's influence continues to wane, the state's ability to shape national policy and also protect its interests will face increasing challenges. Let's hope that Texas can reinvent itself once again. The future of the American Southwest may depend on it.